video of that white professor talking about black people is exactly how white people are when there aren't people of color around. If you haven't seen it, this white woman could be heard in the middle of a Zoom meeting interrupting because her mic was not muted. She said things like, "These kids are too dumb to know that they're in a bad school," or "That's how it is with black people. You teach them to sit at the back of the bus." Eventually, I guess they fall in line, basically saying that if you can break down black people's confidence enough, they won't even try to fight back. While she has since come out saying, "Oh, I was actually trying to explain systemic racism to my child," I know for a fact that this is not true. And the reason is, like I said at the start of the video, this is how white people talk about black people or brown people when it's just white people, when they're in the comfort of their own homes. I have literally heard it. It is a very consistent pattern among white people. Also, if you were explaining systemic racism to your child, you would not use it that way. You would not explain it in those terms. You would focus on an empathetic approach about how society tries to break down black individuals. But the way she said it was definitely not that way. Let me know what you think, and you should go watch the video yourself.
Racism in the education system has been very loud this month. Sometimes it slips out when people forget their mics are on. Let's talk about what a New York professor had to say in a meeting on February 10th. Here's what happened. During a public school meeting in New York City, a black student was expressing their feelings about a school closing. Logged into the same meeting was a professor named Allison Friedman from Hunter College. Her mic was on, but she didn't realize it. This is what Allison had to say.
Schools that they're too dumb to know they're in a bad school. I mean, apparently Martin Luther King said it. If you train a black person well enough, they'll know to use the back. You don't have to tell them anymore.
The language she's using is segregation language. During the Jim Crow era, black people had to use back entrances, inferior spaces, sit at the back of the bus. This is 2026. In a statement following this incident, she tried to say that she was explaining something to her child, which obviously isn't true. The reality is, when we talk about racism in schools, it could be loud, it could be subtle, but it's real. Let's be honest. Racism in the education system is still there. So when we hear our educators say things like this, why are we surprised?
On Friday, he delivers lessons and helps us fit those skills into our lessons.
Black schools that they're too dumb to know they're in a bad school. I mean, apparently Martin Luther King said it. If you train a black person well enough, they'll know to use the back. You don't have to tell them anymore.
Allison Friedman, what you're saying is absolutely hearable here. You've got to stop.
I'm sorry, sweetie. Go ahead, baby. I'm sorry.
Me and many other students in our classes and with basketball.
Allison Friedman, you do not need to be in education. Your hot mic comments about children of color, especially, the comments weren't directed to people of color. The comments were directed specifically to black students, black children. And so many of you guys in the comments today, and I had some conversations offline, and you really helped me understand how to really comment on the situation. But it is wrong of her, and I'm sorry that I generalized the people she was speaking of. She was talking about black children. She was absolutely wrong, and we do not need those type of people in the education system. Hope you guys have a great day, and thank you for always educating and coming together and having strong conversations where we can learn from each other and grow, especially in the climate that we're in. And I deeply apologize for saying people of color and generalizing that, because I realize now that it took away from the severity of the people that she was targeting specifically. And words do matter. So I'm very sorry.
When parents send their children to college, one thing that is clear is that these parents are trusting these institutions with the future of their kids, the grades, mentorship, and also opportunities. But now, imagine finding out that the professor who has been tasked with shaping the young minds has been caught on camera making this kind of derogatory comments about black students, and with not coded language, but plain contempt and direct contempt towards your child. And this situation, which we are seeing right now, has involved Allison Friedman at Hunter College, has actually forced a lot of hard questions amongst parents and also people of color at large. And what happens when the person who is grading the work of your children, of your kid, already believes that your child is inferior? Well, let us see some few reactions to the same, and I'll be back with more commentary.
The Hunter College professor who made a racist remark during that Zoom about the Upper West Side school relocation. Can you talk about what you think is the appropriate punishment for something like that? And what does it say about the underlying tensions?
I think just before I pass it over, there's a reprehensible comment. And I think it is indicative of the exact kind of language that makes students feel as if they don't belong within our public school system. We are looking to build a public school system that is home for each and every person that calls this city home.
Do you think she should be fired?
I think that's part of what the chancellor said in terms of investigating the next steps that should be taken.
All right, good morning. I just want to give my Black people a message before I go to work because it's on my mind this morning. The energy vampires are coming for us really bad. They want our energy. They want our outrage. They are trying to siphon us so badly. And it is so obvious. And I just want to say to my Black people, do not fall for the bait, because we have been doing good, since this new administration. We have been falling back, and they hate it. And they are doing everything. They are working overtime to get us upset. That incident with, who, Trump calling the Obamas monkeys, textbook racism. That dude screaming the hard R at the awards show, textbook racism. This new incident that came out at Hunter College with that professor, talking about Black children, textbook racism. The only thing I'm sad about is the fact that that little 8th grader, that girl had to endure that. I hope that her people are doing what they need to make sure that, she's mentally okay. But all of these incidents are just not random. It's happening in a certain way because they are noticing that Black people are falling back, and they are doing and saying anything to trigger us and get our outrage because they feed off of our energy. This country feeds off of the energy of Black people. And they're not even using like anything original. They're using the textbook Jim Crow racism. That's how I know that this shit is calculated. So all I'm doing is I just want to remind y'all, don't give in. Do not give in to this. Continue to ignore them. Continue to worry about yourself and the people in your immediate circle. We good over here. We're resilient. We don't need to react to this stuff. We don't need to make all these think pieces about shit that pops up every 3 months. We know people are racist. America is racist. This is nothing new. Don't let the energy vampires get to you because they are trying to siphon our energy so hard. Like they are working overtime. They not working a 9 to 5. They working a 9 to 9. Okay, don't fall for the bait.
So a Hunter College professor, Ellison Friedman, is facing major backlash after being caught on a hot mic during a virtual Community Education Council meeting in New York City. The meeting was about potential school closures, and families and educators were there to speak, including a Black 8th grade student who had the floor at the time. While that student was talking, Friedman made comments off mic that clearly weren't meant to be heard, but they were. And once the clip started circulating online, it blew up fast. The Manhattan Borough president called the remarks outrageous, news outlets picked it up, and the situation escalated quickly. Since then, Friedman has issued a public apology. She said the comments don't reflect her actual views and weren't directed at any specific student or group. She also stated that she supports the students speaking out against school closures and acknowledged that her words caused harm, even if that wasn't her intention. But here's the real conversation: intent versus impact. You may not mean to cause damage, but when something comes out, especially in a space involving young students, people are going to respond to how it felt, not just what you meant. And let's be honest, hot mics have a way of revealing what people really say when they think nobody's listening. So now the question is an apology enough to rebuild trust? Or does accountability need to look like something more? What do y'all think?
One thing that we should agree is that this is not some social media debate, but this whole thing revolves around power. And Black American history in America has actually taught us something about power, because we know that for generations, education was weaponized against Black Americans. And for instance, during slavery, it was illegal in many states to teach enslaved Black people to read. So literacy was considered dangerous because knowledge actually disrupts control. And after that kind of emancipation, well, Black schools were underfunded, and they were overcrowded and deliberately neglected. And in that kind of era of segregation, these people believed that they should separate these people so that they can say that being separate is equal, but that was a lie which was written into law. And this kind of message was actually consistent because they were just trying to tell Black people that you should know your place. So when a modern academic echoes that language, then it suggests that Black students should actually somehow understand their position in the so-called segregated society. And this is not random because it taps into historical script, and a script that told the grandparents and ancestors of Black Americans that they were never meant for higher learning. A script that told their parents that they should be grateful just because they are allowed to set their feet in a classroom. And there's now the kind of a double standard which has actually showed up, because when Black Americans protest that systemic inequality, they are told that they should just calm down. They are accused of being divisive, and they are also lectured about the whole thing about patriotism and the like. But when someone in authority expresses open disdain towards Black students, well, suddenly it becomes a conversation about free speech. And free speech protects citizens from government punishment. And that's the script that these people have been using, so that they should not be held accountable when they offend Black Americans. And it doesn't shield professionals from this kind of consequences in institutions they serve, especially when their bias can be direct, affecting the grading recommendation and also the academic advancement. So a professor's opinion isn't just an opinion. It carries weight over scholarships, graduate school, those kind of scholarships that you'll get, the research opportunities that one might get also. And also, if that kind of a prejudice exists, that shows that in that position, it is so structural. And that's why this conversation can't actually stop an outrage. It's this kind of outrage because the Black community has always had to build where the doors were closed. And also, we've seen that historically, Black colleges and universities were created because the mainstream institutions were actually excluded for these people. And Black educators had to step up when others refused to teach them truthfully, and families passed down that history when textbooks tried to erase it. And that kind of control of education has always been tied to survival. So the real takeaway isn't just about that one professor. It is about the vigilance. It is about demanding accountability, and also it's about parents and students understanding that access alone isn't equality. And this kind of reconsideration and also representation matters, because the oversight matters and also community involvement matters. And the whole thing shows that there is something which is so clear, because when you leave your native children, your narrative, and also this kind of children, they entirely in the hands of people whom you trust, and now they start undermining and also devaluing them. How much have they poisoned these children to start having low self-esteem? And how has that affected how they perceive the community before they even are given a chance to start making a living in the same community, which now discriminates them? Well, let us know what you think about this whole schooling from the history of Black Americans and also the modern schooling. and how has it affected Black Americans at large down in the comments below. And also if you might have ever experienced the same conditions and also same experience, you can also share with us so that we can engage with it. And if you've not subscribed to our channel yet, you can support us by subscribing.